Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about acid-base actions. You remember we chatted about homeostasis. One of the things homeostasis needs to maintain is a normal acid-base balance, a normal pH in the body. One of the major things that the abnormal pH can cause is to make proteins, which we'll be talking about later, not work by bending out of shape. And proteins have a whole plethora of functions. On a clinical basis, the wrong acid-base balance can cause seizure, vascular collapse, and other problems also. There are different definitions for an acid and a base, but one definition, according to Lowry Bronsted, is that an acid is a proton donor, an H plus donor, and a base is a proton acceptor. An acid is symbolized by H plus, which is a proton. It uses hydrogen because hydrogen has an atomic number roughly of 1 and an atomic mass of 1. Therefore, hydrogen has 1 proton and, since it's neutral on the periodic chart, 1 electron, but it doesn't have a neutron. So if you lose the electron, you're basically a raw proton. So it's symbolized as that. The whole basis of acid-base balance came out of the spontaneous breakdown of water. I won't get into that. For those that enjoy reading, you can read up on that in my PowerPoint as to how water really formed the basis of the initial understanding of acid-base. We go a little further. In order to understand acid-base, we use something called the pH, which came of the powers of hydrogen. I won't get very heavy into that either as to the calculation, but the pH basically is a measurement of acid-base balance. And again, you can glance at that. Okay, we'll go further. The ultimate pH formula that we'll talk about, and I'll expand in ANP2, is that the pH equals to the negative log of the hydrogen ion concentration. So at this time, just kind of concentrate that changes in this H plus, these protons, affect the pH. Here's the pH scale. Some of you already know this. A pH of 7 is basically neutral, which means you have as much acid as you do base. A pH going, the lower numbers are show more acidity, and the higher numbers show more alkalinity, which is another name for base. All right. Here's another scale showing this. Our blood, which I'm more interested in, has a pH, should have a pH in the blood of 7.35 to 7.45, with a pH ideally of 7.4. So the homeostatic range would be 7.35 to 7.45. Again, here's the normal pH of body fluids, the blood 7.35 to 7.45. We'll be talking about this more in ANP2, acidosis and alkalosis. But for ANP1, we want to maintain it at a 7.35 to 7.45 for the blood. In order to do that, we have insults to our body. Insult, you may recall, in clinical means anything that will deviate you from homeostatic range. And in order to maintain the body pH, one thing that helps is something called a pH buffer. And a pH buffer helps to neutralize insults, shall we say, to keep the pH within normal range. We'll talk more about that in ANP2. The two organs more indelibly tied to the control of your acid-base balance are your lungs and your kidneys, another subject for ANP2. So the lungs and the kidneys heavily are the two organs that control blood pH along with the buffers. So lungs, kidneys, and buffers are the three primary entities that assist in this. And we'll talk about buffers more in ANP2. But one thing, a buffer is a weak acid in association with its conjugate base. I'm just going to concentrate on that for just a moment. There are different strengths of acids. The strength of an acid depends on how much it breaks up and liberates H pluses. Remember, a acid is a proton donor, not just having hydrogens, but donating them, making them free. So an acid that does more donations of hydrogens, of H pluses, shall I say, the hydrogen ion, the stronger the acid. So there are various strengths of acids. And again, since this is not a face-to-face, I won't really get heavy into that because it would take some time to explain that for those that have not taken chemistry. So the take-home point. The take-home point is homeostasis wishes to keep, one of the parameters wishes to keep the blood pH in a 7.35 to 7.45. Another statement, if the blood pH stays right, all the other fluids in the body will stay right because the blood ultimately feeds into the other fluids. So that's the reason I'm not getting into the other fluids, because if the blood pH stays right, generally, unless there's some problem, the other fluids stay right. Next take-home point. An acid, according to Lowry Bronsted, is a proton donor. A base is a proton acceptor. The three major organs that control, the two major organs that control blood pH are the lungs and the kidneys, and also something called the buffers. We want to keep the blood pH in a 7.35 to 7.45 despite insults to the blood. There are different strengths of acids, and it depends on how much it will liberate a proton. So if you glance through my PowerPoints and also read that associated within the textbook that you will see, then you will be okay on the understanding of acid-base balance at this level, at this time. Thank you.